Today, I prepared this for you. And the promise is, it should make your track 0 to 30% better when you go through it. It includes things like this. And this. And many other. So if you go through with this checklist, you should feel much more confident with your track. How does it work? Let me show you. Alright, number 1, low end phase coherence. This is very important, especially if you are making electronic dance music. Go to your low end. You will have a hard time to hear this one, so it's better to visualize it. You can use any visualization tool. I'm going to use duck. 1 goes to the kick, and I'm going to put 1 to the low end group just to show it in real time the effect. This orange color is our bass, and white one is the kick. And the problem area is right here. Bass goes up, kick goes down. What will happen? If you take a look at the right hand side of the graphs, that is a combined signal. We see that this area is gone a little bit, so there is an emptiness. Now, it's not necessarily always a bad thing if you really want to have a silence, but in this case, this can sound really awkward. How do you fix this one? 2 ways. Either you consolidate and render, slightly move your bass to the left and right, but if you have a synthesizer, in this case I have Serum 2, it's much easier. The original patch is actually like this. So it can get harder to see when all the signals are combined. What I'm doing is just removing the top layer so that I can just see the sub bass here. And I'm gonna go to the random 0, so it's always starting at the same point. And then I'm gonna go to phase and move this until I see that they are aligned. Instead of cancelling each other, they will boost each other. And if you take a look at the main signal again, beautiful. Clear separation between kick and bass, right? Simple trick, easy to solve. That's the reason this is the number 1. Hopefully you watched this video and you really fixed your low end before this point, but if you haven't, here is a quick illustration. Take a reference track you like, put per Q3, start with a limiter or something that can visualize your reference track loudness level. What a sausage. I mastered it to -5 AUFS. Okay, this is a very loud track. It sounds good, right? Very good example actually. And we go to our own track, put the same limiter and take the loudness of our track as well. -9. I'm gonna give like something like this. It doesn't need to be exactly the same. If it's close enough, it's close enough. What you want here is just final check. See if you are in similar loudness. This is the simplest check ever. And if you want to detail description or referencing, here is the video. Now put a pre-Q on your reference. Cut it around like a 90, 120, where you find it fit for the track. I want to capture that low end energy. Now take the same limiter, put in front of it one more time. Check this movement up and down and difference between them. Now just duplicate this, put your own track, and now do the same test. Here we go. They are very similar. My kick is a bit harder and the bass goes down. That means that the dynamics difference between kick and bass is a bit different, but the other one is master. So master would also affect and enhance. We can say maybe mine is a bit louder, so I can maybe take down a dB or so. Again, this is the simplest, easiest check. Harder, deeper version is here. Scalar 3 is here, and it's a one-stop solution for your all harmony and progression needs. Let me show you how it works. First, you can pick a chord set, and let's say what they have in techno here. Let's say we like this chord progression here. Now there's one really cool thing in Scalar 3 is this performing option. You will find tons of different performances from tons of different artists. Avant-garde. Really cool, isn't it? Melodic bass. We have the rhythms. Really nice performances that will really inspire you to create a new track. But this is not even my favorite part. My favorite part is if you come here, you have the classic circle of fifth. You can go around here, find the notes or find the modulations. But my favorite is the explore. You have the circle, and in circle, if you pick a note, all the blue ones are inside your scale, and light blue ones are like a little bit in your scale, and the gray ones are outside your scale. So same thing here. You can pick different genres. Let's go for techno. Let's go for dark, A minor. You see how easy to create chord progressions here. This is really one of my favorite. Let's go chill. These two is super nice together. Oh, this was nice. Now you understand what I mean. Like, we always encourage people to create music with the ear. And this really does it because you are not really looking around and trying to find a note. You're just listening. I'm just listening, like clicking and listening. And figure out Oh, that was nice. And finally, once you're done, you come into arrangement mode here. And then you can actually add, for example, melody. Add a bass. If you want to explore yourself more, and if it is something for you, the link is in the description below. Now, the same thing applies for the high end. We will do exactly the same thing, but this time reverse to the high end. Most of high energy is around here. Around 3K. The same thing, check your limiter. Obviously, now we have much more dynamic and transient behavior. Hats hits, and then there is a lower, and hats hits again. Also, snare's top is here. Ballpark estimation, now go to your track. Look at these two. What I see, the dynamic levels are very similar. Again, I'm slightly louder. But remember one thing, every track has different hi-hat patterns. So in this case, if you listen to my track, compare this, right? I have much more heavier high end in this comparison. So I wouldn't mind having like 2 dB, 3 dB louder than the original. Yeah, 5, 4 here. Yeah, it's very similar. Mine is slightly bulkier, but I'm completely fine with it because I have a hi-hat. Other thing you can do, super simple, is actually using span, going here, decreasing the average time, so you can actually see the average levels. I don't like to do this for the low end, but for high end, oftentimes this works fine. Take a look at them side by side. Mine is slightly bulkier. You can literally see like we have more stuff over here. This is like thinner on top and slightly louder. Technique is very similar, but you can do both if you want to be extremely sure. Number 4, stereo width. Now, things that I'm going to show you is most related to electronic dance music, but would work in a genre really if you want to have the bass to be strong, but the presence in the mid and high end. Let me show you. This is a simple graph. Stereo width, frequency range. Electronic dance music really loves to create this triangle, so you almost start dead mono, and the upper you go, the more stereo you get. It basically abuses the idea of human ear can hear the stereo image much better on the higher end than lower end. So if you make your lower ends this stereo, it's not even maybe possible that we hear that stereo in the real life. And mono bass oftentimes feels stronger, and it's less likely that you will have phase problems. So this is the shape that we want to have, and you have to check before. What to do? Ozone's imager is free, I think still, so I'm gonna use that one. And I like to create my bands like this. I will put somewhere below 200, one around 1K, one around like here somewhere, and then listen every single band. First we saw the low end. Gonna first do this. We see that the lower goes is getting tighter, around 200 Hz. Look at here. It's still very, very mono. Second part here, I expect to open up a little bit. Like we expected. A bit more stereo image. If you have a problem here, what you have to do is find the source of the problem. Let's say if it is vocal, go to the vocal and fix the stereo image there rather than doing this. Don't do this. Go to the mix. If it is the delay effect or the reverb or you just pan too much, you should be fixing there. Now, here I expect it to open more. Look at here. This part is a bit of taste. If you open more, let's say like this, it can sound really stereo, but it may lose a bit of focus. So in my case, for the stereo, this is actually fine. You can just come here and open up. Maybe like this, but still completely fine. And finally go to high end. Now, this could be for me, for my ears a bit more. Something like this would have been better. Let's fix that. Let's go to our hats. See which hat we can make more stereo. This one, I'm 11% panning. I'm going to increase it. It goes more to the right side. This one, we can just open it up here. You can use things like per cue or any EQ and look at the side image and open this way. Be in mind that when you boost things, it actually boosts the volume as well. So you may want to listen one together. See if everything sounds great. Here we go. Much better. You can still do if you want to open up more, but I think it's too much. Here we go. Simple. Keep it simple. If you feel like you will use some of the tricks in your tracks, please consider like and subscribe so that I can make more videos like this. This is a quite straightforward and obvious one, but what you should do, always come back to the track a day later and listen to the vocals one more time. You have to look two things. If I can hear the vocal properly, what it's saying, and if the levels are just okay. I can clearly hear what vocals saying and the volumes are sounding really cool. One problem that I always hear is too much reverb. Let me illustrate. Exaggerated is more obvious to hear, but most common version would be something like this. And this is due to the length. The reverb tail is actually cluttering the vocal itself. Now this is much better immediately. If you don't know how to hear this one, take a professional track that you enjoy with the vocal, take your track, solve the mid area, play one, listen, play second one, listen. That way you will hear how much wetness you have compared to pro version. Arrangement clarity. This is a very common thing that repeats in top tracks. You clearly hear the energy, the emotions differently in different part of the track. I'm going to give an example from my own track. It's my Cascade remix together with Andrea. What does it mean, the difference in energy or clarity? For example, this is our track's pre-drop chorus part. Right? There's a clear up energy, but look, if I jump from here to breakdown, you will see the clear difference. And if I jump here, right? If I jump to the intro, this is what I call arrangement clarity. Different part of the track is clearly different. It doesn't need to be like different instruments completely or different things happening completely, but the vibe is different. So in this case, if we come back to our track, right here, you see how difference in the vocal vibe here. Also, dark and supporting elements coming in. Let's take the breakdown. Different. I cannot stress enough, this is a very common thing that occurs in many pro tracks. Do this quick test and see if the tracks you love have a similar formation. This one requires a specific plugin. We compare the low and high end, but what about the overall tonal balance? It's called tonal balance control from Isotope. I like this actually fine. What I'm looking for here, listening to the track that I'm using as a reference, go to the busiest part where every elements are coming down and take a look at this shape. Okay, we are around here, we are around there, something like this. Duplicate this, put it on our track, and put them side by side. Mid-lows are slightly quieter, but the rest looks very similar. Again, remember, I'm not trying to duplicate one-to-one. Every track is different, but I'm just looking at overall balances. Like high end looks good, low end looks good, overall mid scoop looks good, maybe low mid's a bit different, just to give an idea, give a test. And then I will just do A-B. Would I like a bit boost off that area in my track? You know what? I actually didn't, because it created more muddiness. I like the more separation from highs and lows for this specific track. But this has to be one of the simplest ways to check the tonal balance in your track. Transition effectiveness between the different sections. So when you transition from one part to another part, how effective your transition is, so we feel like we really change or we are in the new section of the track. Here we are transitioning from this part to this part. So we kind of need a change here. Try to check out if the transition is just something like this. I didn't feel any energy change, so my transition was really not effective. It was mostly depending on the white noise, but all the other elements in the track was unresponsive, and this is not good. What instead will be good, first we're gonna cut the low end, energy drop, we're gonna remove the kick, rhythm drop, we're gonna remove the vox pads, half bar before the change, we're gonna support it with effects, build up, and finally we will add the fills right to the change. So a lot of things are happening to prepare us to upcoming change in the section. Listen again. Do you hear how much more effective this transition is? Again, it's a bit personal taste, but if you're a bit inexperienced and don't know what to do, take your reference track and focus on the transition part and go to transition of your own track and try to do similar things. It will really help you with the better transitions than depending on just white noises and effects. Okay, this is a really easy one. If your transients are transient enough, sometimes you put a lot of effects and distortions and so on, it's easy to lose the track of the things. Easiest way to actually see this one visually is reprinting the audio. For example, I want to hear the transient hat hit. How do you test that? Solo that, go to resampling and just print out that group altogether. Right here. How much transient is transient? It really depends on track. But I see oftentimes you put a lot of distortion and distortion actually clips the audio and it sounds suddenly like this. It's a very good example of visually really seeing what's happening. Here we had more dynamic and transient response. And here we have such a sausage response. I'm exaggerating, of course, a bit to make it more clear, but try to be careful about your transient elements to be a bit more transient, because all that compression and distortion will really add too much frequencies and mud everything out. It's not only hi-hats, you want to actually check the other important things. Leads. Leads are a bit more sensitive though. It doesn't need to be like that transient. You want to actually contain them a bit, otherwise your master will be terrible. You see them down. I want to hear that like dynamic response of the lead. So I hope to see quieter part going up and emphasizing that change. Again, this is not a hi-hat. It won't be like a super simple transient, but it will be movement in the sound to create this more dynamic effect. And we exactly see this. Start low and then down, right? This is exactly what we wanted with that sound. Final thing that you can do, just do this with your drums. Let's take a look. When the clap hits, this too gets a bit louder, which is expected, but we see kick, hat, kick, snare, louder, hat, and so on. I don't want super transient. It will really sound awkward in electronic dance music. I still want a bit like compression, which I see like quieter part is a bit still having a body, right? But my transients are coming through. Again, simple but effective. Now this one depends a little bit the track. People most of the time listen with headphones or even at home they have stereo system. That being said, if you made a track that's supposed to be played in the club, you may consider mono completely even though many clubs have stereo system. This is just for the making sure. The other problem could be if they listen with the mono speakers in the mobile phone, then this could be a problem. But if they listen with the mobile phone, I mean, they don't expect too much quality out of anyways, right? But I still like to do that later stage of the track. So what you can do, simplest way, take a utility. If it sounds still okay enough, then it's good for me, because we already did the stereo check for the mono of the bass. So I already know the low end will already sound good in mono. Not overall track in mono, simple test. This is one of the most important part. Let's do a check here. To be honest, it sounds really good in mono as well. But in some cases, if you have so many stereo effects, so many stereo elements, when you collapse everything to the mono, it may sound super mushy and bad. And if it is the case, you may try to go back and try to tighten up your stereo image a bit more. Mixed translation. Again, we are in the territory of things that doesn't matter that much, but we do the check anyways to be sure. People may listen to your track with the setups that doesn't have the bass. You shouldn't optimize your track for those things, but it is good to do a simple check and see if everything sounds good. It's super simple really. What you want to do, no subwoofer settings means that you will probably like roll off below 100-120 Hertz. For those people, it will sound like this. Sounds completely fine. Let's say people listen with the speakers, small speakers. You will probably have some high rolls as well, something like this. Completely fine. Let's say we are listening something with very small speakers, very high bass, something like it. Phone speakers. When you do those tests, most important thing actually hearing the transients with your kicks, snare and hats and vocals coming through. Sometimes you may have a kick that is so low that when you cut the lows, you don't hear anything. But in this case, kick is here, clap is here, hats are here, vocals are here. This is what you should check, and I think this is good enough. Final check, consistent levels through your track. How do you do that? Print your track in OK limiter settings. Try to aim for LUFS that is okay in your genre. Take something like Preal, any limiter that you like, push it. This is fine. Once it is done, print that audio. Audio will look like sausage because we hit the limiter, right? So what we are looking basically if loudness are looking okay in different parts. But I oftentimes look at your break shouldn't be sausage all the way down. It's okay for sausages like build up. In this case, we are building up here. But we have this dynamic difference like going down and up. The same thing with the intro. With the vocals only, we have a difference here. The other problem that I see, if you have some very loud elements in your chorus and nothing else somewhere else, your track may start to look like this. And this is kind of bad because the loudness is not optimized. Different parts, like from here, a very audible volume jump, and especially if you're playing in the clubs with the headphones, this can actually really irritate the listeners. Just do a final visual check that everything looks okay. If you have found problems and you want to go back to the mixing and fix them, don't worry. I have a video over here. Take a look.